In 1997, I joined Uganda Revenue Authority as a tax auditor and was posted to the then large taxpayers department. I started teaching my classmates in 2006-2007 tax practice at Law Development Center. After teaching them, I discovered that actually I was a very good teacher and people were understanding. That is the reason East African School of Taxation was started. So the man behind me starting that school is Dr. Kambona. The pioneer students in my class were Senior Counsel George Munyukol and Joseph Luswata. I think he's with Sebel and Lule. Those are the gentlemen who encouraged me to start this school. So in 2011 and 2012, I was in Liberia helping them to start their revenue authority. 2013, I went to Somaliland also to help them start their revenue authority. If you are a lawyer, my advice to you is go and do SCCA. If you are an accountant, my advice to you is go and do law. Tax practice is now finance, accounting, and law. I have registered the University of Taxation in Africa. Probably it's going to be the first university again, which is going to purely do tax. This is something I've been proposing to Ministry of Finance for so many years and Ministry of Education. I was proposing to them that actually they should introduce tax as a subject in A level, and then they should introduce tax at the university, so that every student who goes to the university must do tax. One, you need to do law, as I told you. Once you are done with the law, you do accounting. Once you are done with accounting, you do Godrey. Once you are done with that, to get the international aspect, do audit.
Mr. Akena, we are happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I can see people have even turned their seats. They are eager to hear from you.
Thank you.
They're eager to hear about your tax journey. And we want you to tell us all about it, nothing held back. We want to hear about someone who moved from being a Zakayo to chasing down Zakayos. Okay, so we'll start off with the night with hearing about you. Who is Mr. Godfrey Akena? I think besides everything that we have read about you, that we have been told about you in the run up to this particular night, we want to know you from your own words. Who is Mr. Godfrey Akena?
Thank you very much, Jolie. Although you surprised me, because I think last night or the night before, we were chatting and she was still in the UK. So when I saw her here, I was so surprised. I thought it was another person, actually. Welcome back to Uganda. Home is always home. Yeah, I thought it was the spirit, but she's the one. So, as she has said, my name is Godfrey Akena. I'm a married man, married to a woman, because again, now that is very important. Currently, I have 5 children. Those are the ones I have at the moment. I can't confirm whether they are all mine. You know what's happening. But but at least I have 5 kids, 3 daughters and 2 sons.
And you're not going to confirm. We shall take it that they are all yours.
Yes. So more about myself. I am now 55 now, in September. I come from a district called Gulo. That's where my humble beginning started from. A child of a primary school teacher. My father was a primary school teacher. My mother was a primary school teacher. My grandfather was a primary school headmaster. So I am a teacher by birth.
We can all see where the teaching comes from, right? Okay, thank you, Mr. Akena. So now that we know a bit about you and where you come from, I know that most people here who are young professionals just starting out in their careers have heard from different professionals on this table telling us about their journey, how they came to join the tax world and why tax. I remember Mr. Kamlege was asked how he came from being an agriculturist to being a tax professional. So now we want to hear your story. How did you come to join the tax world?
Now, my journey in the tax world started in 1995. Something happened to me in 1991 When I applied to join Makerere University, they did not give me law. And for your information, then all these other universities were not there. So I was given social sciences on government. I was with him in campus at the same time, Dr. Kambona. So I felt the pain. I really felt I must do law. So while I was still at Makerere in third year, I started doing a course called CPA Kenya. By then, it was being offered at Strathmore College in Nairobi. So in 1995, I went for the first time in Strathmore College to do a face-to-face. And that's when I was doing tax as a paper in level 2 of CPA Kenya. So at Strathmore was the first time I fell in love with tax. We had a lecturer, his name was called Mr. Singh. I think Singh is, I don't think that's his real name, but he used to wear that thing on his head. So he taught us tax in CPA Kenya, and I passed it so highly. So when I came back to Uganda, in 1997, I joined Uganda Revenue Authority as a tax auditor and was posted to the then large taxpayers department. So I joined URA in 1997, worked there up to 1998. Now, while at URA, there used to be a place called Katebe. Now, Katebe was the tax academy or the training school. They would put people who are interested in teaching to go in the training school, whereas the guys who are interested in money, they will remain on their tables. So for us, we were sent to the training school, but little did they know that the training school was going to open for me two things. From the training school, I was sponsored to do ACCA, which I did and completed in 2004. From the training school, I was sponsored to do law, which was my first dream. So I did both courses sponsored by URA, and thanks God should go to the late Commissioner General. She was called Aslan Anbridge. She's the one who sponsored me and wrote all the recommendations for me to study. So that's when my love for tax started. Then, while I was still at Law Development Center doing tax practice, I met Dr. Kambona. He was my lecturer. But because of my love in tax, Dr. Kambona told me to help my classmates. So I started teaching my classmates in 2006, 2007, tax practice at Law Development Center. After teaching them, I discovered that actually I was a very good teacher and people were understanding. That is the reason East African School of Taxation was started. So the man behind me starting that school is Dr. Kambona. And then, again, something happened which you might not know. While I was an auditor in the URA in large taxpayers, we audited Bank of Baroda in 1999-98. Now, Dr. Kambona was a lawyer for Bank of Baroda. And we had added back the specific provisions for bad debts, which Bank of Baroda had written. Had deducted as an allowable deduction. We told them that they had not exhausted the requirements under Section 24, which are required that for you to write off a bad debt, you must have exhausted all the avenues of recovery. Now, that was the time we went and I met him in court, and we lost as URA. So it taught me something, that actually tax is not about the figures only. Interpreting the statute is a very important component in tax. So those are the things which took me into tax.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking us down that line. Just to clarify, the Tax Academy is no longer Katebe. Those were the days. Now it's a fully fledged institution that trains people from URA to be able to understand and practice the right things. And you give us feedback whether we're doing a good job. But Mr. Akena, so tell us about your time as a teacher within URA and how that shaped your life going forward, especially when you left URA. But first, tell us about your life in URA before you tell us how then you make the jump out of the tax administration.
Now, my life in URA was very interesting. One, when I joined URA in 1997, the salary was enough. You finish the month and you still have a half of your salary. We used to get around 800,000 shillings. Now, 800,000 shillings in 1997 was a lot of money. I could take my kids to Green Hill Academy, I could buy a car, and I would still have a balance at the end of the month. So that was a very good employer to start with then. Now, the second thing I liked about URA was training. URA, if you loved training, was the best place then. Because there were very few people who were interested in training. Everybody wanted to work, sit on their desk. So there was always that opportunity to go and study. And that's what I liked most about URA. The training was a lot. And then we used to have the weekly meeting, which would also help to analyze what you've done and where we've gone wrong. So it is from there that I picked, those of you who study at East, who studied from East, I think you've seen the examples I give you in class. All those accounts I give you are the accounts which we used in office. Those are the cases we audited between 1997 to 2008. So it's a very good training place. The only bad thing with URA, which I was sharing with her, is that every May to June, there was always pressure. Targets. So in 2004, I got high blood pressure for the first time. I was feeling headache on Friday. I felt headache on Saturday, Sunday. So I went to see a doctor. Told me, young man, you have high blood pressure. What's the problem? I said, we are working towards targets. My department has not collected enough, and we are under pressure from the Commissioner General to collect. Now, that thing affected my health. So I got high blood pressure in 2004 because of the targets. 2005, the same thing. 2006, the same thing. 2008, I left because I couldn't handle it anymore. I didn't have a strong heart, so I had to leave. But in all, it's the best place for training.
Thank you so much. And I agree, URA is the best place for training. For you to be able to understand tax, it's the best place to train. If you have friends in URA, as Mr. Akena said, April to June. June was just 2 days ago. Please give them a call. Make sure they don't get high blood pressure. Give them a call and tell them and ask them, how are you? Are you okay? But thank you so much for giving us that background. So you leave URA in 2008. Were you apprehensive about leaving URA? Did you have a plan about what you're going to do after you leave URA? Tell us about the journey from being a tax administrator to now being on the other side as a consultant. So
in 2008, September, 2 senior lawyers came to me at URA training school, and they asked me if I could do a similar program, the same program we're having at URA, if I can do it for the private sector, for the lawyers and the accountant in the private sector. I asked them whether it was viable. They told me, we are going to collect to get for you students, mobilize students, and you will get students. I told them, I have a family. I have children who are going to school. If I leave URA and start this training for you, how sure are you that I will survive? Those gentlemen assured me that we have law firms. We can even bring you in, but this thing will not go wrong. Let's start a school. So I always tell you this story. The pioneer students in my class were Senior Counsel George Munyukol and Joseph Luswata. I think he's with Sebel and Lule. Those are the gentlemen who encouraged me to start this school. Otherwise, it would not be there because I didn't have the energy and the guts to start. I was fearing. I was used to getting salary. In URA, we used to get salary every 24th, I think.
Now it's 18th.
We used to get salary too early. That sometimes even get confused. Now it is 18th. Every 18th of the month, the salary is there. Now they are telling you, get out and go and start a tax school without a building, without even where you are going to have the classes. So do you know what those gentlemen did to me? They said, we are going to hire for you a Grand Imperial Hotel, and we shall be paying the days we have lectures. So like we would go there and guys would be having wedding meetings. And for us, we are having tax classes. That was the first 6 months. We had it in granting period. I remember we were paying 30,000 per lecture as a rent for that hour to stay in that place. But after like 3-4 weeks, the number rose to 70. Now 70 meant now we could now get a good place and pay rent. So that's when we moved to Conrad Plaza. So that's how the school started.
Thank you so much. And that's how we have so many people that have gone through East African School of Taxation. So when you get out of URA, you leave your very well-paying job, you start East Africa School of Taxation, but you don't stop at that. You also start tax practice as a lawyer. Tell us about your journey to becoming a lawyer and becoming an advocate, and why tax? Why did you specialize in tax? Yes, as a tax administrator, maybe that came easy, but where did you see that niche for you to say, this is where I'm going to make my money on top of the school?
Now, around that time of 2008, there were so many African countries which were moving their revenue department from Ministry of Finance. So I looked at that opportunity of also helping countries to start their revenue authorities. So in 2011 and 2012, I was in Liberia, helping them to start their revenue authority. 2013, I went to Somaliland, also to help them start their revenue authority. So that was another area which I looked at as a virgin area, because there were very few countries which had revenue authorities, and there were very few people who could go and train the staff to start the revenue authority. And those of you who still remember, I came with a group of Liberian senior managers. 13 of them came to Uganda. They stayed here for 1 year, trained them, they went back. Now they are the commissioners in Liberia. On top of that, I also looked at something which my brother here taught me in 2001 when we were in the court, Bank of Baroda versus URA, that actually tax is a combination of accounting and law. It beat us on a very simple thing, but because we didn't spend time to look at it, for us we thought all the allowable deductions for tax was in the Income Tax Act. That was the first time in my life to realize that actually there are some allowable deductions which are outside the Income Tax Act. I couldn't believe that you can bring another law, like the Bank of Uganda, I think it was called Prudential Norms. Yes. I couldn't believe that you could bring the Bank of Uganda Prudential Norms into the Income Tax Act and an allowable deduction is given. So for me, I realized there was opportunity in tax practice. And that's why I moved into tax practice.
Thank you so much. So to the lawyers out there, I hope that is inspiring enough. I know we've had so many lawyers come here and tell us about the beauty of tax. But by the time I graduated from law school, which is some years ago, there were still very few lawyers that were interested in tax. It was still seen as something that was for accountants, as something that only accountants could thrive in. So as a lawyer and a CPA and an SCCA, what would you advise the lawyers? Do they need CPA or SCCA to become good tax lawyers? Can they do without them? What is your advice as someone that has seen both worlds?
Actually, looking at the lawyers and the accountants here, these are young people. If at my age I could study for 14 years, these guys can actually do it up to doctor level. Then, if you are a lawyer, my advice to you is go and do SCCA. If you are an accountant, my advice to you is go and do law. The combination of the two is very important in tax today. Because what I've realized, tax practice is now finance, accounting, and law. You need to understand the industry. Recently, we had a case which I cannot mention here. But the accountant is the one which made the taxpayer lose because of the double entry he did. Now, that double entry he did in tax, it meant a payment. but the accountant did not know. And he was still arguing that we have not paid that loan. We have not paid that loan, but the loan is no longer in his balance sheet. It is moved. So what have you done? That process of removing it from there to another place is payment. So you can see that you need, if that accountant had done law, would have known that there was a mistake there. So I advise all of you, I can see you are all young, you have the energy. I think now I have 14 accountants who have crossed into law. 14. Among the ones who are teaching at East African School, we have Dr. Jeff, we have Chambade. Those guys, they all came when they were accountants. But now they are now lawyers. So I advise you, if you want to succeed in this practice, because where we are going, it's becoming complex. You need to understand both accounting and law.
Thank you so much for that wise advice. So lawyers, SCCA, we are doing SCCA plus CPA, and the accountants, we are doing law school. And there's so many places you can do law school now. You don't only need to go to Makerere. So I hope that has inspired many of you who are probably worried, who think that it's difficult. You have an inspiration, someone that has done both worlds and has succeeded. So those of you who want to do a wholesome tax, consider doing both SCCA and CPA if you're a lawyer, or doing a law degree if you're an accountant. But back to you, Mr. Akena. And I want to concentrate now on your teaching. You started East African School of Taxation in Grand Imperial. You later on moved to your own premises where you're renting, but bigger space. You don't have to share with wedding meetings. What has the experience been like teaching future tax practitioners? And who are some of the most memorable tax practitioners, or what are most memorable tax moments that you've had? I recently, actually just last week, I met Yvette Wakawi. For those of you who don't know Yvette is a programs manager at IBFD in the Netherlands, and she's a former student of Mr. Akena. And I was asking her, what inspired you to go into the tax world? And she told me her single most distinct inspiration was Mr. Akena. That she went into East African School of Taxation. She was in business. She was just supporting her husband in the business world. And they had tax issues with URA. And then she said, you know what, I need to understand this tax thing so that I can be able to deal with it. She had an accounting background. She goes to East African School of Taxation, and she told me her first day, Mr. Akena was a motivational speaker and inspired her, and she decided this is the world she wants to follow. The rest is history, but those of you who don't know about her, please read about her. She's doing great things and representing us in the Netherlands. But that inspired me, and I knew that this was happening today, much as you didn't know. But I kept that at the back of my mind and said, I need to ask him, what gets you there? What has been your experience? How many events are out there? What is memorable about teaching tax for you?
Actually, I now have so many of my former students out there. I think in the US, we have with the KPMG, we have with Ernst & Young, we have with PwC, former students of East African School of Taxation. In the UK, we have, I think, Ruth. Ruth is doing a PhD. She's also working there. I think we have another student in Vienna, also doing a PhD. In Uganda here, if you go to any of these big law firms and big audit firms, sometimes when I go to visit them, it's like I'm at home. It's like I'm at East African School. So I have so many of my former students who are now big people. I think we even have one Supreme Court judge, a former student of East African School of Taxation, is now at the Supreme Court. At the High Court, we have 3. And then the magistrate, I think the last time I counted, there were 24 magistrates who have studied from East African School.
Wow.
So we are still moving. Now, what is happening? We are now receiving people with a PhD who are coming at East African School. Dr. Christine Akelo has just finished. Yeah, she got a first class. Maybe I think PhD is another level. She came and East African School was too easy for her. She got a PhD now. She's a judge at the High Court here. So I have quite a number of students who have become big people, and they really, whenever I see them succeeding, that's why I get my satisfaction. I am this type of guy who loves to see my students or my former students succeed. Makes me happy, having grown up as a child of a teacher.
And what has been your most memorable moment? If you could remember a moment that was memorable for you in teaching tax, maybe both in URA and East Africa School of Taxation.
I think the most memorable thing in my life is that day when we teach about allowable deductions and disallowables. That day of introducing. To me, that's the most memorable day, because that is the day you see everybody attentive. Because that's the beginning of tax, and that's the engine, that's the rock. So that's the day I always love. And on that day, we normally have it on Saturdays. From 2009, I've been teaching that topic, Introduction to Deductions, only on Saturdays. And mind you, I've been teaching every Saturday and Sunday from 2009 to date. I teach every Saturday. That's why I've failed to play golf. I'm in class every Saturday and Sunday. I have a very unique lifestyle. I'm used to being with students as opposed to being out there. Maybe it has also helped me. That's why I'm not drinking much, because most of the time I'm in class with my students.
Thank you so much. East Africa School of Taxation was founded in 2008.
Yes.
Okay. It's been almost, I'm a lawyer, so forgive my mathematics, but it's been about 17, 18 years of East Africa School of Taxation. We also do not see any other taxation schools coming up in that entire period, and yet tax practice is growing. Why? Why do you think that's the case? And what do you think we can do about it as tax practitioners?
You know, tax is not a simple course. You remember we used to have tax practice at Law Development Center. It has been abolished. So now the lawyers coming out of LDC have completely no knowledge of tax, if they have not done it at undergrad. The reason was, it was difficult and the lawyers were failing. I remember the last time I taught, I marked the exams, I think the pass rate was 40%. So the admin and the management said that was below. I said there's nothing I can do. That is tax. That's how it is taught. So they had to abolish it. The reason why we don't have many tax schools, one in Uganda and other parts of the world, the course is difficult. Two, it requires constant reading, because the law changes every July of each year. Just imagine, from every year, next year in July again there's a new law. The other year there's a new law. So you need to be current and you need to be reading all those cases. Now, people don't like that. It's demanding. It's not like land law. When I read my land law, it was last amended, I think 205. So once I know the one of 205, I am good to go. But tax, now we have to start reading again, because starting yesterday, now we have a new law. Yes. So I think that's why it's difficult. And then two, we normally don't get the good numbers. Most of the people who come to do tax, I have just done research to see, these are people who are very bright at O level and A level. Those are people who performed very well. And when you go down and look at their mathematics and the science subjects, some of them could have actually become engineers. Because there's a lady I saw who got D1 in chemistry, D1 in physics, D1 in maths, and she's a lawyer. Now that lady could have done engineering. So that probably explains why we don't have many people doing tax, and people don't like it. It's difficult. I agree with you. It's not a simple course. The ones who have done it, you should thank yourself and be respected. It's not a simple course. And two, the reason we don't have it here in many institutions is because the way it has been developed by the guys who colonized us is that if you want to do LLM, you have to go and do it in Europe. If you want to do another master, you have to go and do it in Europe. We do not have an LLM which is designed for East Africa or for Africa. We don't have. So that is my dream. That's something I'm thinking of doing. I have registered a University of Taxation in Africa. Probably it's going to be the first university again, which is going to purely do tax. I'm in the process of registration and all that, and also looking for funding. Probably when I come to Doctor, and since he's the one who inspired me, I'll come back to you and say I need funding to start this university, and then that will make it easy, because now you will not have to go to Europe and pay $100,000 to do a master's. You will do the one of Uganda and probably be like $5,000. Uganda shilling, our arrangements, so that we can have many Ugandans in that area. We cannot do it in Europe because it's too expensive. New York University, I think, is $120,000.
Yes.
How many Ugandans can afford that? We can't.
Queen Mary is 53,000 pounds.
Queen Mary is 53,000 pounds. We can't. So that is the problem we have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Mr. Akena. I hope those of you in the room who are interested in teaching tax can come to him and see how you can partner to be able to make this dream come true. You've taught so many people from different angles. You taught revenue law at LDC, okay? You teach at MAT. You also teach at East African School of Taxation. What's the difference in teaching these different groups of students as a tax practitioner and as a tax lawyer and as an educationist? What is your experience in the different ways people perceive tax in these different spheres where you teach?
Now, at MAT, because at SCCA we do the tax of UK. Now, the tax of UK is very different from the tax of Uganda. And actually, when I started doing SCCA, I discovered that actually NIC is tax.
Yes.
NIC is tax, the insurance.
In the UK?
In the UK, it's tax. So, the difference that the tax in the UK, one advantage they have is that they have developed study material. They have developed study material. So the students just buy the books. The lecturers just need to read the books and come and explain to the student. So it's not difficult to teach tax at ACCL. Now, when you come to Law Development Center, we don't have reading materials. We actually, you struggle to get your own and go and teach using what you have. And what you go to teach there is your experience of what you learned in the field. We don't have a structured notes, books, or authorities or something. We don't have. Now, at East African School, they are lucky that I keep on collecting. Every year, I collect cases and audited cases from the URA, and I use it as a training tool. We share. We have that collaboration with their training school, so we share. So there we have a lot of material we use. We have cases which are coming out of TAT almost on a weekly basis. So we have a lot of material when it comes to East African School.
Thank you so much. And before we leave that topic, tax education, for me, who is on the side of the tax administration, I noticed that one of the things that affects taxpayer morale in this country, tax payment in this country, is tax education. Most people do not know why they are paying tax or do not know how to compute the tax to pay. And you find that most of the time they are at the mercy of the tax administration. What do you think about tax education in this country as someone who has been on both sides of the coin, the person who has been at URA teaching the URA staff and who has been out there teaching the practitioners? Because ignorance in tax is one of the things that affects taxation and collection of tax in Uganda. It impacts both URA's work and even the practitioners out there. People pay taxes that they probably would not have paid if only they knew. And people find it very hard to go to objections, go to chat and litigate with Mr. Kambona. They find it very difficult. Most of the time they just pay. But because they do not understand, what do you think and where is our future as a country?
Yeah, this is something I've been proposing to Ministry of Finance for so many years and Ministry of Education. I was proposing to them that actually they should introduce tax as a subject in A level. And then they should introduce tax at the university, so that every student who goes to the university must do tax. This will help. It will help the taxpayers. I recently had a friend from the US. This gentleman was in Uganda. He told me, man, I have to file my return. If I don't, they will get me at the airport when I'm going back. So you can see that level. Now, this guy knows how to file his own return. Even knows what deductions he has and what he should not put in his return. He knows all those. So we should have that type of training where all the taxpayers know the tax they're supposed to pay, so that also our work as tax consultants is simplified. With the few students we have taught, I have noticed something, which I don't know whether you will agree with me, that there are now so many cases which are being concluded at ADR, and there are so many cases which are being concluded at mediation, at tax appeals tribunal, and it ends up in a consent. That means the two are now agreeing. That means, when you explain something and somebody realizes you are explaining the correct thing, you will go back and do research. The next day will come and it will have changed. So if we could get that put in our syllabus, it will help a lot. At least what I know now, people know that we must pay tax. That one has now been removed. People used to have a lot of pain in paying taxes, but at least over the last 10, 20 years, people now know we must pay tax to run the country. That one is there. Now, how is where the problem is. So probably that has to be done by the policy makers.
Thank you so much. Maybe I can inform you that URA is actively trying to engage National Council for Higher Education and curriculum development to ensure that tax is included all the way from primary school. Now, getting away from tax education, you were a tax partner at ABMAC. You left ABMAC and founded Godena Associates. Tell us about that. How is practice? How is practice at Godena?
Well, practice, there's some unique thing, as I told you. Most of my cases are being concluded at mediation or ADR.
I don't know if that's supposed to be a good thing.
When
it's a good thing we clap for URA.
Because what I've noticed, the other side of URA, I normally find my students. This side, I am the lecturer. Now, what I've noticed with people who have done tax, they have a listening mind. There's not this thing of, I will assess you. I will assess tomorrow. Whenever I go, those things are no longer there. They're sort of dying. Now, that means the other side of URA also, the guys are knowledgeable. Then this side also. So when you get a knowledgeable tax assessor and a knowledgeable tax consultant, normally you will not go to court. You will not go to court. And another thing I've also realized is, when you know what you are doing, for example, me, I've always told my clients that here you are wrong. You pay this amount. Here, you have a 50-50. Now, to soften URA, if you tell the client, when URA is also there, that here, we're having a problem, you pay this one. You have created a rapport. The next day, they will not even disturb you. Now they will listen to you. But if you say everything, we shall go to court. I have seen some attitude. A guy goes to URA for the first meeting and says, we shall go to court. Why are you going to fight? If you know what you are talking about, why do you want to go to court? Explain it to those guys. Explain it to them. Let them buy it. So to me, that's where we need to move. And that's what I've seen. It works for me. I explain, we explain. And at the end, they tell us, by the way, counsel, you are correct. Your position is right. But this other part, your client needs to pay. So it works for me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for at least painting URA in a good light. When you explain, we understand and we are able to make good decisions. So someone who has been in tax world for 28 years, you've been involved in some groundbreaking cases, both as a tax administrator and as a tax practitioner. You told us about the case you did with Dr. Kambona, but what other memorable cases have you handled in your career as a tax professional?
There are so many, but let me try to see the ones I can remember. I think we had one recently called Bessie versus URA.
Yeah.
It was about interpretation. Actually, what I've realized in tax is that most of the cases is about interpretation. It's about interpretation. So interpretation is a very important thing in tax. So Bessie was about interpretation. And then we did another case. There was also this one, Scovia Gatete, Sanyo versus URA. Similar facts. So what I've handled quite a number of cases.
Yes.
There is one which we handled recently, but we lost in touch. We lost in touch not because we were wrong. And actually, when we left touch, we knew we were right. But I was so disappointed. We were so disappointed that we didn't even go to appeal. But the client went ahead and appealed and won in the High Court. You've read the case of Ambitious Construction?
Yes.
Ambitious Construction, Rwenzori Commodities, those were our cases which we handled in touch. So if you look at the submissions, the same. Only that we didn't have the energy to go to, because I was really disappointed. We explained that 25.3, the net basis, because that thing was picked from OECD, but the way it is in the OECD is different from the way it is in our Income Tax Act. But luckily enough, they have amended it this year. That case used to pain me a lot, but they have amended it. Now we have a good case. So that is one of the areas which I handled.
Okay. Did you push for the amendment?
I did.
And how has that been with working with URA, especially where you see gaps in the law and you think that there needs to be an amendment here?
No, actually
not with URA, with the ministry.
With what I've noticed with the ministry, like I went there, I think 2 years ago, about microfinance and Tier 4. The banks were receiving specific provisions for bad debts, but the microfinance were not receiving it. So I remember there was that case of, I think, Access Finance, where they rejected their deductions. So I went and we were in a meeting with finance and I asked them, these guys are doing the same thing. They're facing the same level of risk. Why are you giving to financial institutions and leaving these other guys out? Now, this year, it has come in the law. Yes. So those are some of the things we have done.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that explanation. So drawing from your career in tax, working with the URA, teaching tax, working as a private consultant, what would you say are the most requisite skills for a tax consultant? What skills can you say that for someone to succeed in the tax world, these are the skills that they need to have so that the young lawyers here can know that for me to be Mr. Akena 20 years from now, I need to have these skills, or I need to hone my skills right now. So at a point T, I'm able to be a successful tax lawyer, tax consultant, tax practitioner.
And the first skill is law. You need to understand law. Because I have seen 90% of the disputes we have is about interpreting that law. So law is the first thing you need to know. The second one is accounting. Because whereas law helps you to interpret, accounting helps you to address the company. An accountant can look at a company and will see the company as a transparent object. Because you can see where their sales are, whether they have made losses, and where do the losses come, and where do we tax? Do we tax profit? Do we tax chargeable income? Now you get it from accounting. And now of late, because of the complexity in business, finance has become also very important. So you need law, accounting, and finance. The beauty about finance is that it's together with accounting. So if you want to be an all-grounded tax consultant, you need to know law, accounting, and finance. And then another thing which is not taught, you need to be a person who is not arrogant if you want to succeed in consultancy. When you go to those guys of URA, talk to them nicely. Don't shout at them. Don't tell them we shall meet in court. No, take them. Actually, they are also human beings. That's what I've realized. Because I've also been the other side. While I was in URI, I used to meet Kambona. And we used to admire him a lot because of the way he would approach us. And at the end of it, we became his friends. So it's about, that is something you need to develop. The heart of associating and mixing and befriending people. I can go in an audit with URA. After a month, all those guys are my friends. We are not quarreling. Sometimes the taxpayer even gets annoyed. Starts saying, are you with them or you're with us? Say, but I don't need to get annoyed with them. These guys are also just doing their work. I'm doing my work. And actually, being their friend helps you. So we need those skills, the soft skills.
Mm-hmm. Guys, you heard, be friends with who?
With Jolly.
No, not with Jolly. With URA. So, Mr. Akena, you have quite a number of academic qualifications. You started off with social sciences, you did law, you did SCCA, you are a CPA. You tell us about how you became a CPA. You've done audit, you're on the way of doing audit. So tell the tax lawyers and the tax accountants in the room, what are those courses that stood out for you that you'd say for anyone that wants to succeed in this career? These are the courses that I think are most relevant to tax. Oh, you have an MBA as well. There are so many. So for someone that has done it all, what would you say that these are the most concrete courses that I think are requisite for someone to have a successful career in tax?
Okay. As I told you earlier, mine took me 14 years to accumulate all those papers. 14 years. But now you guys are brighter and younger, which means you can do it faster. One, you need to do law, as I told you. Once you are done with the law, you do accounting. Once you are done with accounting, you do poditra. Once you are done with that, to get the international aspect, do audit. You are done. You don't need anything more than that to do tax in Uganda. For me, those are the only ones I use.
So we don't need the MBA?
I have not used my MBA at all in tax.
Because young people are always rushing to do MBAs.
In tax, you don't need it. It's that diploma in tax, that at international tax diploma audit, plus the law, which will help you to practice. And you'll make your money.
Thank you so much. I think the room has taken note. And before we leave that topic, what are those themes that you see coming up in taxation? Because most of us understand tax from the basics, okay? What is chargeable income? What type of income is the person earning? And some people will specialize in VAT, excise duty. Where do you see tax going? As someone that stands both from a practitioner and someone that is also educating the future lawyers, the future tax consultants, where do you see tax going? Which areas can you say and point out and say, I think this is where tax is moving. This is a direction that we should be looking at.
I really see tax moving into international tax because the world is becoming a global village. And now for you to invest outside Uganda, you don't need to leave Uganda. And now that we are sharing information all over the world with Uganda, I see international tax as the new area of practice. International tax and the area of transfer pricing because of the multinationals we have. Those are the new areas which these young people should go for. That is where you will make your money in the future. This one of chargeable income of ours is going to end very soon.
And for someone that worked in the URA that was operating manually, okay, what do you see or what have you seen as the impact of digitization and what should the young people know?
actually, what URA has done has changed the way we used to file, the way we used to collect taxes. We used to collect taxes in cash. For those of you who don't know, I think it was in 2001, when Lucky Dube came to Nile Hotel here, I'm the one who collected the taxes at night. And I went with it home and took it to URA the next day in the morning. Yes, that's what we used to do. You would collect, they give you policemen, you go with them home. The next day you take the money and they bank. And money tax was being paid at URA, not at the bank. Our time. Today, you don't go to URA, you go to the bank, you pay from the bank. Today, everything is on your email, digital. And I've seen so many new things, like the eFreeze platform, that it's actually simplifying the AI. They are simplifying the way tax is done. So for me, that explains why we had to introduce, those of you who have just finished East, we had to introduce a new model dealing with eFreeze and these new things at URA now. Because we were not teaching them, but we had to get a consultant who developed for us a model, and that's what we have now.
Thank you so much. And with AI that is coming in, URA will be easily seeing all your income. So at what point then do we move away from just being tax professionals that file returns for taxpayers and do more than just filing returns? Because with AI, everyone is going to be able to file a return. With AI, everyone is going to be able to Google the basics about taxation. So how do we present ourselves as tax consultants to be able to go above and beyond? Because if you have a client who can easily just go and put the case in AI, put his facts in AI and get advice from AI, then how do we distinguish ourselves from all these other tools that are coming up?
I think as tax professionals, we need to keep on updating ourselves. We need to keep on updating ourselves. And tax is a bit unique, and it is unique depending on the country and then the laws of that country. AI, yes, might be there, but the AI might be an American tax. It might not go down to the Ugandan tax and give us the Ugandan specific. So we might still have value. The only thing is that we need also to go IT. We need to be tech, so that when the IA comes, we are ready to also compete with AI. With AI.
Thank you so much. As we conclude, 28 years of doing tax, are there things you feel you haven't done? You know, you have taught tax, you have collected tax, you have gone to court, you have advised private clients. Is there anything that you feel you have not accomplished in the last 28 years?
There is one thing which I want all of you to help me. All along, I wanted to have a tax university. I have struggled over the years to start that university. I'm failing to get the finances. So one thing which I've not done is to start the University of Taxation in Africa, which I've done the registration and everything, but I don't have the finances. So I am banking on this young generation, these young people, to help us start that university. Once I do that, I think I can retire. That's the only thing I'm waiting for now in life, to start that university and let it operational. Once it's done, I can retire and go back to Gulu.
Thank you. And to make Mr. Akena's point even more clear, for those of you who want to do masters and probably specialize in tax, just go and try and look for a course. It's very hard to find a master's in taxation. If it's not international tax at NYU, if it's not international tax at Vienna or international tax at Queen Mary, you hardly have many universities that are teaching a master's in tax. So the dream is real, and I think the dream can be achieved. There is a market because tax is growing. People are becoming more aware of tax, and yet the universities out there are not concentrating on tax as a specialization. So let's work together with Mr. Akena to see that his dream comes true. Before we get questions from the audience, my last question for you, Mr. Akena, is what would you tell your younger self If you look back 28 years ago, what would you have told the young Mr. Akena?
28 years ago, I would have done law.
You say they rejected you.
Because I delayed to do law and I regret it. It took time. But if I go back, I would have started with law. Because to me, after doing law, everything opened. I look at the world in a very different way because of that law I did. And the law is the only profession where you give a fee note and the client doesn't negotiate so much. When I was doing accounting, I would charge a client 15 million. At the end, the client would pay 5 million, but in installment of 10. But in law, once you said 50 million, the client pays. So I don't know why clients respect invoices of lawyers as opposed to the invoices of accountants. So that's what I regret. If I had known that, I would have done law in 1991 when I was doing my first degree. Probably I would now be like Dr. Cambrona.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akena. Can we have one round of applause for Mr. Akena? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And before we thank Mr. Akena for his time and sharing with us, let's have, I think, 3 questions. 3 questions from the audience.
Yes, Mr. Akena. Also, it's an honor and privilege to hear your experience. You taught me at LDC, taxation. And that was my first sneak peek into tax. I hadn't done tax at undergrad. But you talked about that for lawyers, you advise them to do ACCA. I know there are different ways of doing tax. I know there is is it certified accounts training? CTA, yeah. CTA, there's CTA, there's ACCA. So I want to know what's the difference and why should someone do ACCA particularly that you're recommending, and how many years does it take? Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once? Okay. Please come.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Luanga Eric Huntington, and it's been a pleasure to listen to you, Mr. Godfrey. Well, my question is, yes, you mentioned the importance of lawyers doing SCCA, and it's not the first time I've had that suggestion over the years. And at first I thought, since I might only want to be on the litigation side and on the battles, kindly just help highlight how the training from SCCA might be very helpful in the context of tax litigation and dispute resolution. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akena. My name is Alan Nesima. My question is in line with the SCCA and the qualifications that lie most in the accounting world now. I am a law student, and most lawyers here would confess that mathematics has always been a problem for lawyers. Now, advising us to do SCCA, I want from your experience, how would you feel you didn't find it difficult, especially dealing with the calculations with the mathematics to acquire those qualifications? And do you find mathematics very handy whilst acquiring those qualifications, to the extent that if you're not well-grounded, you probably might not manage? Or you feel you can actually put in the work and go along with the courses and accumulate all those qualifications in the accounting world? Thank you.
Dale is the last. For the rest of you, send emails, LinkedIn, tweet. Deo is the last.
Coming in. Thank you so much. For real. Thank you so much, Mr. Akena. I would request to go a little bit personal. I request you to help us, the young people, know how your knowledge of taxation has helped you structure personal investment. Thank you.
Okay, let me first answer these ones before I forget. There's this gentleman here. No, it was him who started. He's saying, why should it be ACCA? I am saying we are moving global. You cannot be in Uganda, then everything you have is in Uganda. You get it? Recently, I think there was a Ugandan who went an expatriate, as an expatriate in Bahamas. He had done CPA Uganda with the guys who had done ACCA. They brought him back because Bahamas could not recognize CPA Uganda. So I am trying to help. I'm trying to look at a situation where you've done your law from Uganda, but you've done finance and accounting. ACCA is, you do it from Uganda, but it's UK. So you are UK based, but with a Ugandan legal background. It helps you to get exposed. You get it? I want you to look at certain examples, like you get a past paper of ACCA. If you look at the management or the finance paper, the question there will be about Coca-Cola. It will be about Toyota. That's what you do in the exams. Now, when you do a Ugandan course, which example are they going to give you in the exam? They don't expose you enough, so it helps you to be exposed. Now, ACCA, somebody asked whether it is very difficult. For your information, I did history, economics, and literature in Namiliango at A level. That's what I did. And I did ACCA and finished in 3 years. What you need to know is, if you have credit 3, 4, 5 in mathematics, you can do ACCA. Sure. If you have 6, 7, 8, and 9, don't try. But once you have a credit in that subject, in maths, in O level, because the determinant of someone's brain, by the way, is not A level, it's O level. That's why they allow you to do 10 subjects, and you can get D1, 10 D1s. That's when you're at your peak. That child can do medicine, can do law, can do everything. I think you can see recently we had a lawyer, an engineer, who came and did law and got a first class. You saw it. So why not you to go and do it the other side? You can do it. I did it. I'm an example. I did ACCA with people who had done BComs. But I want to assure you, in financial management, you got 79. And a BCom friend of mine got 62. But how? You can did history. What did you manage it? So if you put your mind in something else, you guys are still young, you know, for your image. But I have a friend who went to America after doing social sciences, 1991. And she went to America and became a nurse. Sorry, nurse doing surgery. That's it. It doesn't take long. 2 years, 3 years, you are dying. Now, those who are in the big five, they know it very well. If you do it PMD, right, or a lawyer, they will send you to do ACCA. Whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an engineer, you first go and do ACCA. Why? That explains to you. Those guys have seen all. They know it more than that. The students I need to admire who are doing ACCA, they're lawyer, being sponsored by the big five. And they're passing it so well, what to do. Now, somebody is saying, how is ACCA relevant in tax education? the tax we are going in requires you to understand law, finance, accounting. That's why we are going here. Because of the spread of the normal business with a lot of technology here. So we need to understand that. And then there was asking my personal investments vis-a-vis the tax. This one I always say to my students. I am not a guy of apartments, of building apartments in Madeira, building apartments in Timber. I don't believe in it. I'm a guy of paper bond. I believe in bonds. And for me, before I do any investment, I first do return for 21 years. Before I go into any business, I first run my cash flow. What are the expected cash flows? What am I expected to earn in 21 years? What am I spending in 21 years? Then I decide. Now, when I look at my investment in Treasury Bond, it's no expense. I just get my money, finished. Some 4 years ago, we had a friend who was supposed to build an apartment. Mine was supposed to be Koro. His was Koro. So for him, we went for apartment. Me and went in Treasury Bond. So we compare not. He's buying like that. Last month, he put a lock at his apartment. He had not paid rental tax to URA. He had not paid the property rates to Wakiso district. So they had locked and his tenants were outside. So to me, things like Treasury bill is another one. There is an investment club. I think unit trust. Those are very good. So that's why I go for it. Because again, it's a private tax. And the taxman, I don't want to be disturbed. Once the Bank of Uganda has removed his tax, I get my money out. And it works when you want to. That's my plan.
Thank you very much. Any female with a question? Please come.
Sorry.
Just before this one asks, let me explain why I always insist on STCA. Maybe that will help me. I have seen people who have opted to do other courses other than CPA, other than STCA, like CPA. I have 2 students, one is now on 9 years, still doing CPA. The other student who went for STCA finished in 2.5 years. So you can see you are not growing young. Why you go for something which will take you 10 years to finish? And this one, you take 2.5 years to finish and done. I remember the big fight this was CPA in the early 2013. They have now stopped. They sponsoring for SCCA because the people they were sponsoring for CPA were not finished. When are they going to work? 2 years, come back and work. So SCCA, because they have study materials and have good lecturers, you finish in 2 years or 2.5. And the best place for it is Advocate with the Professor Sejaka. Yeah, you can't go wrong there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Doreen Kakuru. I work with Demo Consult as a Senior Tax Associate. Mine is a vote of thanks to Mr. Akena because I have a testimony on him. I remember the day I was doing CPA, I was buried there, doing papers, failing. A friend told me and is like, go and do Poditra and your life will change. I went to East African School of Taxation. I'm a product of Poditra and my life has changed. So guys, go for Poditra. Tax practice is interesting. Thank you, Mr. Akena. And he has referred me to a job and I've gained practice from there. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Jolie. So I think this is where you're going to sign out from for us.
I'm still enjoying this time. Why do you want me to sign out? Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Akena. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for coming here to share with us who are walking the journey that you have walked and hope to be successful in it. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Thank you for showing us what it has been for you so that we can have an idea of what it will be for us. Because I think that those of you who did tax before us made it easier for those of us who are coming after you. And I hope we're also making it easier for those who are coming after us, because tax is growing. So many people are getting interested in it and so many young people are joining this world. To the audience, thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's coming to 9 p.m. Thank you so much. A big hand of applause for yourselves. So thank you so much, Tax Hub. Thank you so much, Edwin and your colleagues for organizing this, and have a good night.
Mr. Akena, we're not going to just let you go like that. So we have a token of appreciation for you to go with, and we're going to invite Dr. Oscar Kabona to do the needful. Shout out to the business owners in the building, entrepreneurs we see you. Thank you for coming. It's important for you to also understand tax because it affects your business.